My name is Jose Paredes-Clara. I'm a data management application engineer here at KETIV. I've been with KETIV about 6 years and started off on support, but transitioned into data management Vault but after about a year and haven't looked back then. A lot of you on the call know who I am or have worked with me in the past, so I'm glad to see you guys here. But like Christina mentioned as well, we're going to be looking at how to work with, how to set up Vault to work with, outside companies, multiple companies in the same environment. First, we're going to look at the types of access that you can grant or that you might be looking to work with, and then the methods that we can set up within Vault to work with that type of access. And then at the very end, any questions that come up on specific, configuration or ways that or issues that you've run into, we can go ahead and tackle that. And just to reiterate, because this is a suggested topic, it helps us a ton because we know that, A, there's interest in it, and B, it kind of gives us a list of topics that we can tackle down the line. So, if you do have any questions or topics that you want to hear from us, just fill them in the survey. So starting off, types of access, right? Read only, right? So there's a couple of ways that we can share read-only information, a few ways actually that we can share read-only information. And we're going to go ahead and take a look at those, one of them being shared views, PDFs that can be generated within Vault, Professional, and then actually, no, shared views, PDF sharing, and the last one is Thin Client. Those are all Vault Professional features. Same thing with when we go into collaborations and snapshots here, we will go ahead and in snapshots, we can share a little bit better, and collaboration will have a little bit more. You can do it, but it would require, Professional would give you a lot more leverage on it. We'll see what that means in a little bit. But methods of access, like I mentioned, shared views. So we're going to jump into the Vault client here right off the bat. And right now I am logged in as an administrator here, and we have, you'll notice, apologies for the numbering scheme here, but I have a car seat that was, that's one of Autodesk standard models that comes with it. But the one thing I want to point out here, as I move myself out of the way, is that we have a shared view of it. So this can be generated within the Vault Professional client. And essentially, it is a snapshot in time that lasts 30 days, and it'll tell you when it got created, right? So in this case, I created this this morning, of this drawing of a car seat. If I wanted to go ahead and take a look at it, what it would end up doing is we can share the link to this shared view, and it would allow us to go into this online viewer of that drawing. Oops, of course. Let's refresh this here. So one thing to keep in mind when using shared views, though, is by default, they last 30 days. And that's when you generate it, 30 days from when you generate it. What's nice is if you come into the client, even though this one was generated March 22nd, 2023, I was able to reset or extend the expiration date within the client. So that means if you are sharing this with an outside company and an outside partner, you can show it to them. Maybe they fall behind, maybe they're not able to review it, provide feedback. You can extend that how long that that shared view lasts, and then keep that extended until they no longer need it and they're able to provide their feedback. You can, as you can tell here, you can actually share shared views of specific drawings or even models. In this case, if I go ahead and view in browser, it'll go ahead and open up the model, Or again, if you're trying to share this with someone, you can go ahead and copy the link, email it to them, share it with them, and they'll be able to essentially open it up in their browser as we're doing here. So we have, again, ways of viewing drawings. We have ways of viewing specific models as well. And again, that's if you're trying to provide read-only access or finding a way to get some feedback on certain things. Excuse me. PDF sharing is another method that we can do this. So a lot of our customers do share PDFs with customers already. Vault Professional allows us to generate PDFs on release. So, if you're going through a release process like we are in this case, where files or, files, in this case, files specifically, are in work in progress and they go through a release process, when they go into a release state, there is an option inside of Vault, inside of Lifecycles, to go ahead and create a PDF. So if some of you are familiar with the administrative side of Vault, you may be familiar with this window here. But on certain transitions, so like let's say when it goes from review to released, you can edit that transition and tell it what to do. One of the things that you can tell it to do is synchronize properties, which is important between files when things get released, and you have certain things that you want to update on your title block. You want to go ahead and update the view, and then the last thing that you can have it do is generate a PDF. These three things happen with the job server or the job processor, which, if you're not familiar, is comes with every Vault Professional client that you install. But essentially, it's a separate compartment that allows you to process certain jobs, such as these property syncs, visualization updates, and PDFs, either on a separate machine, which would require a separate license, or on your local machine after hours, if it's something that you want to run while nobody's kind of using your machines. But when it generates the PDF, it matches the life cycle and revision of the files that were released. But at the same time, what you can do is you can configure a published location. So this could be in this case, I have it on my C drive. This could be a network drive, maybe that another company that your partner company has access to, and it'll automatically publish these PDFs to that location. So that would be another way that you can kind of keep everything up to date by publishing these PDFs, not only internally in Vault client or your Vault environment, but also export it to a network location, a SharePoint, anything like that your partners or your customers can access and have access to this read-only data. Again, because it is a PDF, it doesn't have any of those native, layers, any of those the iProperties that you would in a drawing. So maybe that's something that you want to do. Maybe that's one way that you would like to collaborate with your partner. Excuse me there. Let me go ahead and jump back in here. So that's shared views and PDF sharing. The third way would be thin client. And for those, there's three different ways that you would enable this access. The reason I say enable this access, or in this case, two ways, so we'll get to Vault Gateway not being one of those, but essentially Vault Thin Client is the free viewer that comes with Vault Professional. It allows you to access the Vault through a web browser. And let's see, so if I click here, it allows you to go through a web browser and log in. But again, because you need to ping the server, because you need to be able to see and communicate with that Vault in general, the partner company, your customer, would need access to your network in some way or form. So this is something that you can work with your IT company, so that, you know, maybe you only provide them access to a specific server, a specific IP address at specific times, things like that, to mitigate the access point itself. And then the other thing you can do is within Vault, we can limit their access as well. But this thin client, again, when I sign in here, they will have access to the different folders that are within your Vault environment. But again, getting them access is the first part. So one option that we do have here at KETIV is Vault as a Service, in where we host your server on Azure. And that way, you know, even if it's not multiple companies or partner companies, if you have multiple locations, California, Tennessee, Atlanta, you're able to access the same server because it's in the cloud, and you don't have to worry about the physical location of that server. If they're the other, in this case with Vault as a Service, if you do have a customer that is not on your network, we can move on to the second option here, which is VPN. So with Vault as a Service, we have a small add-on that allows you to connect to create a tunnel essentially between yourself and that Vault server that we generated. And it allows that communication with Vault and VPN, because you're able to access that Vault server and that machine or virtual machine that it's hosted on. You're able to use thin client, you're able to log in that way, as well as through a regular client. So you'll see here that, you know, I'm logged in as an administrator, but if I log out here, what I can do is actually log in as a partner company, which is this awesome user that I created. And I'm going to go ahead and log in. You'll notice I actually have a password for this. Typically for the administrator and all my other dummy accounts, essentially what we go through there is, or typically what we do is we don't have a password on it. It's on our local machines. It's test data. So we don't really put too much security on our accounts locally for these demos. But for partner company, I did have to do that. And we'll see why in a little bit here. But the first thing I want you to notice that even though we gave partner company access to our Vault environment, they're only able to see these customer folders here. If I go ahead and log out again, so just to point out, you know, we have Project Explorer, designs, and then customers. They're able to see what we want them to see. And this is the first example of folder permissions that we can use. What I ended up doing is there are other folders in there. If I log in as the administrator, or in this case, anybody on the engineering team, they'll be able to see this engineering folder. And this could be, again, you don't want them to see anything that's not ready yet. You don't want them to see certain folders or designs that belong to other customers, other partners. You can control it with folder with folder permissions to begin with. So if we look at the details of this folder and then go under security, you'll see that I gave the engineering team a permission to read, modify, delete, and download the engineering folder. So that means they'll be able to see pretty much see the folder to begin with, and then do certain things within it. The way that Vault permissions work is if it's not explicitly included or excluded, it assumes that it's a no. So right now, engineering is the only group that is able to see it and work with it, because our partner company isn't in the engineering group and it's not added to this list of permissions. They're not able to see this engineering folder. Excuse me. And again, if you have questions on Lifecycles or folder permissions, just let me know. So folder permissions is the first layer that we have there. The second layer that we have is actually Lifecycles. So again, Vault Professional allows us to set up Lifecycles here. And then it also, I know it's been out for a while now, but if you do have Vault Workgroup, Autodesk is sunsetting it, so they're giving you access to Vault Professional, and kind of giving you access to those Vault Professional licenses to switch over to this. So if you're currently on Workgroup, or you've been meaning to try Professional, Lifecycles would be available to you. So partner company. And when I'm logging in here again, it kind of gives me a good segue to jump into Vault Gateway. And we have had some talks of Vault Gateway in the past, but essentially what it is Autodesk's solution to accessing the Vault from a remote site, but it gives you added security on here. So Vault Gateway allows us to create an access point through one of their cloud servers, and it requires an additional license that will allow users to connect to this cloud environment and then down to your server, and it adds more security. So I do have my Vault Gateway set up here, and you'll see here, typically what I do is log into my local host, which is my local machine. But now I'm going to log into this cloud instance that Autodesk is hosting for us. And again, if you have any questions on setting up that environment, or running into any issues with setting up that environment, please reach out. We also, again, do have some other sessions here on the Vault Gateway. But if I were to log in here, or try to log in, administrator, if I could spell. I mentioned earlier that some of our demo accounts don't have any passwords. If I try to log in as Vault administrator here, it'll give you an error. So that, again, that's a little more added security. If you're worried about, giving your outside companies or outside vendors or partners access to the Vault, sometimes maybe they have the same ideas that we do, and they're like, oh, it's just, I'll leave my password as empty so I don't have to remember it. I'll leave my password as 123 so that I don't have to remember it. This in this case, it doesn't let you. Vault Gateway requires a certain level of password complexity in order for you to log in. And again, that's why in this case, for my partner company, I actually have a password that I have to type in. But right now, it's just reaching out to the cloud server to reach back into my computer. So, you will experience a little bit more latency in accessing there. So just keep that in mind. It won't be as fast as, when I was logging into my own machine right off the bat. But it does give you access. If I were outside of my home office, if I were, somewhere on vacation and somebody for some reason needed me to access a file on my local machine, I would be able to log in from anywhere, as long as I had this address here, which is specific to my environment. As long as I had that address there, I would be able to log in from any location, any customer site, anything like that. But jumping back in here, if we look at the folders available to me again, we know there's an engineering folder there, but as a partner company, as the customer, as the vendor, I don't have access to that because of folder permissions. I don't even know that other folder exists, which is fine, which might be what you want to do. But coming in here again, if you want to further apply security permissions to your folders, I have it spread out by different customers. I could only show them their own folders if that's what I wanted to do, show them their own designs, show them, the folder that I want them to create files in. As I come in here, I want this one. As I come in here, we get to the same files that we were looking at before, and you'll notice that we see the work in progress ones. This is where that second or third layer of security can come in. Maybe they can't see engineering, maybe they can only see their own folders. And then the last level could be, maybe they could only see the released versions of their own files. In this case, if we're looking at collaboration, we want them to see work in progress. We want them to see files that they can edit. Again, they will require their own license unless you provide one for them, but they would have access to the environment. They would be able to add files in here, modify files that were created, and then depending on your workflow, you could even have them push certain files into the next stage. So if this customer or this partner company has the appropriate permissions, which I haven't given them apparently, they would be able to push it into review and have your internal designers, your internal engineers review it and then possibly approve it. But again, these sorts of things, when you go into your lifecycle permissions, oh, this is not going to let me, because again, because this is an outside partner, if I try to do any of this, maybe I think I did give him administrator. You'd be able to limit that if I wanted to, but I'm going to go ahead and log out and log in as the administrator to make these changes. Again, I'm going to log in as administrator, but I'm going to do it locally because those inputs are a lot faster through the local machine as opposed to through the gateway. So again, coming back to the life cycles, if I wanted to limit who can see things in this work in progress, again, currently I have it so that everyone can see. If I wanted to explicitly deny my partner company from seeing this, I can add them and deny it here. Now, something to keep in mind, explicit denies are pretty much absolute. And this means it's specifically in this kind of scenario here, even though partner company technically is part of the everyone group and they're allowed, because their name is added here with an explicit deny, this deny will always take precedent. That's something I always like to point out. Explicit denies are pretty powerful. So just keep in mind before using an explicit deny, whether or not someone's group may conflict. Let's say if some people are part of this partner company but are also part of engineering, something along those lines, then explicit deny would affect those. A more efficient way, or a less strict way of doing it would be to actually add a group such as the engineering group and then removing the everyone group. What this would do is currently only Eric and the engineering group would have access to these files in work in progress. That means that I'm not explicitly denying our partner company. So if I were to hit this and hit OK, I'm not explicitly denying our partner company, but the next time that they log in, they shouldn't be able to see that work in progress. Let's see. So I did it to the KVA one. It seems that I'm gonna go ahead and close share views here for a little bit. That this is part of the masterclass release process. So I did not change that. Let's see if we can find. I guess we wouldn't know which ones are part of the KVA one because we wouldn't be able to see them. So let's go ahead and change that here. While I'm editing these things here, if there's any questions, think I see one here that I'll go ahead and address in a little bit. But if there's any questions that you guys are coming up with right now, oh, there it is. So it is blocked, not able to, it doesn't let me make any of those changes. So I'm going to make it as administrator here, and we should see a bunch of things disappear. And again, it does come down to the level of transparency, I guess, or access that you're trying to grant your partners, your vendors, whoever, any outside company that you're working with. It really does come down to the level of access that you're trying to work with. But there are many ways that we can leverage Vault to do that. And I think the question in here has to do with BIM 360. Can you collaborate the Vault to BIM 360 in live if BIM 360 is down? I think I would need a little bit more clarification. Are we talking about the BIM 360 service itself being down, not having access to that cloud service, or what kind of I guess down service would we be looking at? So if you wouldn't mind clarifying on that, Eugene, I could definitely look into answering that. So because we changed some of these permissions here, you'll see that now we have a log file, so they can't check these out. But again, it comes down to the level of access that you're trying to give your users. So we covered shared views, which are again read-only, 30-day expiration, which can be extended if your vendor, customer, outside partner needs it. PDF sharing, which would happen on release, requires job processor, requires an additional, typically requires an additional license, can be a little bit more manual of a process if you're using your own machine to generate those files. And then Vault as a service, which KETIV offers, Vault Gateway and VPN, which allow you a much, I guess, wider way of limiting and applying your permissions to these files and folders, limiting what you need or what you want to these outside vendors and partners. But again, if there's any questions, any concerns, anything in your specific environment that you would like to talk about and see which one fits your use case the best, feel free to reach out to support. Feel free to reach out to me and the data management team specifically. We'd be more than happy to to sit down and talk through this process with you. So with that, I'll go ahead and give you a few minutes here to send in any questions that you may have. But again, thank you so much for jumping on today. If there's any topics that you'd like to explore a little further, again, please fill out the survey at the end. Be very helpful to see those and have those. It's a time health issue on maintenance in the BIM 360. Eugene, go ahead, do me a favor, because I think this might be something that it might be easier to kind of talk through and look through if it's something in your environment as well, in a one-to-one. But go ahead and reach out to support at KETIV. Let them know that you you're reaching out because of KVA today. And then they'll go ahead and make sure that it comes through to me. Let's jump on a call, a Zoom call, and take a look at it together and see exactly what your concerns are with BIM 360, and maybe it's something that you're running into right now. We can go ahead and address it. But it looks like Eugene is the only one that sent in any open questions here. Thank you again so much, everyone, for jumping on today. And I hope to see you guys soon. Thanks, Christina. And till next time.
Jose.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.